Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The heat is here. That's not the dream for our homes or our offices. But what is the dream is one and only Water Cleanup of Florida, because they will take care of any issues you have. The reality is, even before their issues, it's good to know that someone like Water Cleanup of Florida, Michael, George, Robert, their entire team exists. Because you never know when those things are going to happen, and it is very stressful to have to find a service company out of nowhere. You don't. They're right there for you. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-579-0356. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They are there for you with any issues, water or fire issues to your home or your office. 954-579-0356. They were fantastic for my wife and I with our townhouse. They really did such a tremendous job, and they'll do the same thing for you. Check them out on their website, wcufl.com, at Water Cleanup FL on all the socials. They, again, I talked about this each and every time, but to me, it's impressive to not have to go somewhere else. They're one-stop shop. They have licensed, certified, insured contractors on staff, so not only they correct whatever problems you have, they'll make it look brand new. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Florida Panthers have had the guts. The last 2 years got into the Stanley Cup Finals. We talk with a man who's covered South Florida sports a long time. He's covered the Panthers off and on for years. He will be traveling to Edmonton on the road games in the Stanley Cup Finals. And he talks lots and lots and lots about the Florida Panthers and their second straight appearance in the Stanley Cup Finals. One and only Dave Hyde joins us here, the Defo Show with Lubie, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
The Defo Show. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest, and always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. And just when you're thinking, here we go, I'm going to have to get my GPS device out and see where the fuck Marlins Stadium is, Lone Shark Park, as we call it, and cover the dreadful Marlins to the trade deadline when they get rid of everybody. Here we go. Well, we end up in the Stanley Cup final chase. So something good to write about and a week to get ready for it. We welcome to the program the great South Florida Sun Sentinel columnist, Dave Hyde. Dave, how are you, my friend?
Defo, instead of finding out Marlins Park, where's Edmonton? Come on, seriously.
We were just talking about that. I mean, have you done a tale of the tape yet? Edmonton versus Miami or South Florida?
I just wrote about that today, and I Googled Edmonton and hockey. You know, I Googled, best hockey towns to visit, and it came up an Expedia site that Edmonton was number one, and number two was some city I never heard of in Nova Scotia. So that tells you they're as culturally and polar opposite from us as could be, isn't it? I mean, you couldn't have two more different markets than South Florida's casual. With rabid, everybody in the arena is rabid. I get that, but the outside is pretty casual hockey market compared to a place that lives for hockey.
Well, if there's nothing else to live for, I would imagine that would be part of the driving force behind the interest in the team. Now, this is one time, I guess, we've talked about this, with regard to other sporting events, about whether or not you were going to be on the road and covering the team. But this is one time you'd be happy that the newspaper business was going a little bit light on the budgets, the travel budgets, because would you really want to be schlepping back and forth? And will you be schlepping back and forth? This is the biggest divide in terms of miles that you could possibly have assembled to put two teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. Are you going to be going back and forth, Dave Hyde?
Yeah, well, let's think of this Panthers road to the final. Tampa, I could have gone there, simple trip. Boston, beautiful city. New York, beautiful city. I didn't go there. They are sending me to Edmonton.
No.
I think there's a punishment factor
exactly.
in here, right?
Like, screw you, Hyde. You want to go to New York or Boston? Edmonton is for you.
You know how you have to get to Edmonton? There are no direct flights.
No direct flight. I would imagine not. Who goes to Edmonton?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have to go through Denver on the way out. Over 8 hours of travel from liftoff to touchdown. And then go through Montreal on the way back. That's how you get to Edmonton. So
Are there hotels or igloos?
Do they have hotels?
Do they have hotels?
I'm staying in a teepee, but it does have heat. It has heat, so I'm looking forward to it.
let's look at this from this perspective, because we've often called this the town without pity. Hank Goldberg forever was referring to South Florida as a bush league town. The Panthers gathered a little bit of momentum, I think, in terms of public attention and acclaim over the last couple of years, especially last year, right into the Stanley Cup final. They had that as a springboard going into this season. Had a real good year. Where are they at in terms of the public's consciousness? You mentioned, and I was thinking about this. I mean, I know they have enough fans to fill the arena, and it certainly make for good conversation once you catch on to what it is that they're doing now through 3 series. Where do they stand in terms of having an impact in what goes on in this city in terms of the attention that are being paid, attention being paid to the sport?
I thought it'd be more, to be honest with you. I thought, and I hoped, as someone who makes a living off of of sports teams and followings and conversations, and I thought sustained success that they're having into the second year would be more of a driving force. And I get they're selling out and all that, huge, but you tell me which is bigger, which are more people talking about, or for me, reading about. Dolphin OTAs, meaningless, ridiculous workout.
Tua's got to get his money. He's got to get his money.
Right, yeah. The Tua contract or the Dolphin or the Panthers in the final. I really wish it was the Panthers in the final, but I can't say that it is. And so, it's disappointing to me in that regard. On the other hand, I like to write about excellence in any sports, and you're seeing excellence from the building of Bill Zito, which is where it really all started when he took over, to Paul Maurice's system, to Barkov and Kachuk and Forsling and things that we never thought about, the aggressive forecheck and that type of stuff on the ice. So it's I like to write about excellence, and you're seeing it play out.
Well, and look, and I appreciate you for doing that because, and I guess people would probably mock us because we forced the Panthers and the Marlins down people's throat for years. Because, look, yes, the Heat are now good, and they're good pretty much every year, which they weren't in '96. Fine. The Dolphins finally have hope again for the first time in 20 years. And the late 90s was nearing the end of Marino, and it was highly questionable what was going on into the next 2 decades of blah. I get that. But the Panthers have now become this. That's the thing. It's not even 2 years. It's like 4 years. Remember, they were a President's Cup trophy winner 3 years ago. And yes, they faltered, but they did win a series. Last year, they had a tough season, but got it together and did a very Heat-like finals run. And then they were, again, Heat-like this year, where they were great all year, struggled at the end, but then went right through a murderer's row of goalies, which is usually the toughest thing to face in hockey, and found themselves in the Stanley Cup and not going 7 games in any series. To me, that's the kind of thing that eventually warms over the South Florida fan base. That's the thing I've been thinking about lately. Is it's so funny how '96 caught fire. This team's way better than that team, and I love that team. That team was fun. Upstarts, Beezer and Ray Shepard move, and Mellenby and Stu Barnes, and I can name you the whole team. That team was nowhere near as talented as this team is. This team has staying power. Bill Zito has built a goddamn monster. They're literally the team that they talk about as much as anyone on the NHL Network, and that was never the case for the Florida Panthers. So to me, you don't think that at some point, we like winners down here. This team is not going anywhere. Bill Zito knows what he's doing, and they have a nice young core. That's the funny thing about this whole thing is Kachuk's their heart and soul. The dude's in his mid to late 20s. I know we're all jaded, but to me it feels like if anything's going to bring fans into hockey, it would be this team, the way that this team is constructed, the way this team plays.
Yeah, and like you said, they aren't an old team. They are, Kachuk's, I think he turned 27, Barkov's 28. I mean, they got years. Bobrovsky's 35, so, that isn't going to ride out forever. But the manner they play it's a combination of great talent and rugged physical stuff that you don't see very often in hockey anymore. And the combination of those two make them if you're a hockey fan, casual hockey fan, or even a borderline hockey fan, they are a fun watch. And So my theory always was with the Marlins and why people didn't follow them, and with the Panthers and the Heat the other way, which you needed to sustain success. You needed fans to believe year after year after year, and so we're in year 2, year 3 kind of with the Panthers. So I would think it keeps building. Now, how high it gets and all that, that's another matter. But I thought, like you, look, 96 was as fun as I've had covering a team because it was a surprise. It was out of left field. Not only that team, not being a great talent. There weren't great talents on that team. It was the ultimate. They're bigger than the sum of their parts, or some of their parts are bigger than who they are, or however that phrase goes. I try to stay away
than the
from
sum of their parts. That team was
but also South Florida had no, it's 3 years into the franchise.
Yep.
So hockey was still getting a toehold here, and all of a sudden this team comes out of nowhere, and then that was a lot of fun. But this could be dynastic if they can keep it going. Zito certainly, he's got the Midas touch. You look at what one guy can do for a franchise. For 25 years they were down, and he starts wheeling and dealing, and he took over when Joel Quenneville was suspended by the league, kicked out of the league, and it looked like, oh, here go the Panthers again. They finally make a great move for Joel Quenneville, and it goes and it blows up in their face. They will find any way to slip on a banana peel, and it looked that way. And here comes Bill Zito, and he's Midas. I mean, you go through his moves, it's hard to find a bad one. They all not only are good, in many cases they're franchise changing, and that's how you get to a situation like this.
Where would you put Bill Zito? I mean, I'm trying to think of brilliant South Florida sports executives. Yeah. You'd probably put Pat Riley there, number one. I know he didn't have the title of general manager, but he essentially was running the team and making the personnel decisions. Dave Dombrowski, of course, would have to rank up there, even though he wasn't here for a long period of time, still orchestrating the early stages of the Marlins and getting them to a World Series in the 5th year. No small accomplishment. I can't think of anybody with the Dolphins unless you go way back into ancient history. Where's Zito? Is he number 2 or 3 on the list of top executives in South Florida sports history?
Well, the forgotten guy is Joe Thomas with the Dolphins back in ancient history, but he's the one who built much of the early 70s Dolphins.
You weren't going to throw in Rick Spielman? Jeff Ireland.
We can go through the list of
Chris Greer,
of guys with the Dolphins who have had good swings at it.
Mike Tannenbaum. Mike Tannenbaum.
And why I love covering good teams is because I've covered so many bad teams. And
yes.
You meet good people. You meet good people when the elevator on their career is going down, and you have to accompany them using bad adjectives. So it's always good to cover somebody where the elevator is going up and their team's winning. So, but Zito would be, we're still in the early swings of his reign here or era, but certainly if he can keep this going, he'd be right up there with anybody you can name. Riley, because of the
longevity.
Not
just but he's made bold moves also, Pat Riley, which Zito did. I mean, the trade of Huberdeau, a very popular player, and certainly a guy that, if you were a hockey fan here in South Florida, you thought, wow, that's one good guy that we have. But to deal him and others that were significant in that President's Trophy run, and just say, hey, we're never going to win a championship this way. That took a lot of balls. A lot of these executives don't have that kind of nerve.
Oh, are you kidding me? If that doesn't work out, and
you're done.
Yeah.
And he's probably gone. And they came right down to the wire of last year, making the playoffs after they won the President's Cup, as you said, best team in the regular season, and they make bold trades, and all of a sudden they're on the edge. If they don't make the playoffs, and beyond that, they're down 3-1 to Boston in the first series. If they don't win that series, I'd be, it would have been interesting to see the alternate universe here, where if they don't make that, does Zito survive? Because the owner, we had the best team in the league, and you broke it up, and
they're not afraid to pull the plug at any time in the NHL. That's a certainty.
You want a parallel conversation to this, and I don't have an answer, but it's something I'm thinking about. Is the Dolphins a blast to watch? They're very, on their best days, they were like, you go to the Panther games 2 years ago when they won the President's Cup as the best regular season team, and you'd hear chants of "We want 10," meaning 10 goals, because they were scoring so much. It was wide open, fun hockey to watch. And just like the Dolphins on their good days are wide open and fun, they do things nobody else does. Great entertainment. And the Panthers came to the conclusion real quickly with Zito, we can't win like this in the playoffs. And you saw why when it got to the playoffs. Now, where are we with the Dolphins? Can you win this way is the question. And I'm not saying you can. Again, I haven't come to a conclusion, but it's something I'm mulling over in my head. And turning it over, because they doubled down on speed and everything again this offseason. So anyways, off track there, but on track at the same time.
You would think if ever there was a time that the Dolphins could capture the AFC East, it would be this year, with Buffalo seemingly taking yet another step. I don't know how significant a step backwards, possibly. New England being out of it again, and the Jets counting on Aaron Rodgers solving all of their problems as they did last year, and it only led to more problems and more observations that the rest of the team, just outside of a couple of guys that they had drafted, wasn't very good. All right, and now we saw, and you mentioned the suffocating style and the forechecking, and everybody's taken notice of this, and it was alluded to all throughout all of the telecasts that we've seen in the playoffs so far. And then, of course, in dissecting the series through the eyes of my New York Post, Dave Hyde, they naturally were pointing out incessantly that Zibanejad and Kreider and Panarin were doing nothing against the Panthers' top line. And I don't know that people get so deeply into the subtleties, but then supposedly Paul Maurice had done an excellent job in mixing and picking and choosing players as he moved some things around on the other lines. Can they do this against Connor McDavid and Draisaitl? And I guess the other guy on that line is the Jewish kid, Hyman.
Hyman, and he is Jewish.
Yeah, I mean, can they stop those guys? Because Zibanejad and company, that's one thing. But, it seems like this will be a taller assignment. Do you see the same effectiveness maybe being in play here?
Well, it's interesting. Go through the series. They did it to Kucherov in the first series, where he was limited.
That's right.
Stamkos had a big series. Boston, Pasternak, their big scorer.
Pasternak did nothing.
He did nothing other than go to the ice when Tkachuk hit him.
Yep.
And then the New York series, their top guns, other than Trocheck, were pretty much shut down. And so, but look, Connor McDavid and Draisaitl are McDavid is the Michael Jordan of hockey right now. Without the titles, pre-title Jordan, completely different game though, in being able to win titles. And Draisaitl is his Pippen, I guess, for lack of a better analogy. So I asked Maurice yesterday, about the cat and mouse of matching lines, because all sports is matchups, no matter if it's a wide receiver, the cornerback, or the guard against the great scorer, and the great defender against a great scorer in basketball. It's the same in hockey. It's just harder to, unless you really pay attention to watch, because they're switching lines. And the question becomes, if you're the Panthers, I would assume, you want Barkov on McDavid's line. Barkov's the best defensive. He just won the award, the best defensive forward in hockey, second time in 4 years. And McDavid's the best scorer in hockey, best offensive threat in hockey. Of course, if you're Edmonton, do you want to switch lines and change a matchup? So but the Panthers even have a pretty good answer for that. The Bennett line is pretty good. Bennett's a nice guy to be able to throw out their second, or Lundell, depending on how Maurice wants to go. So there'll be a cat and mouse of how to match up and what team wants what matchup. And I'm curious to see how that plays. My hockey knowledge only goes so far to know.
It's pretty good, though, Dave. I have to say, very impressive going back to the Stamkos series of Tampa Bay.
I don't know how this is answered, though. I don't know. Okay, if you're Vancouver, or excuse me, Edmonton. I wish I was going to Vancouver. If you're Edmonton, what do you want to play out here? And of course, part of it is, the home team gets the last line switch on faceoffs, and so the Panthers can kind of structure their matchups at home, and that's on the road. Edmonton will get the last, line shift, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out here. If I can even pay attention, it's sort of like football in some regard. I need someone to translate some of this for me.
Yeah, the line stuff. I watch plenty of hockey, so I have an idea what's going on. I don't know about the line stuff, but what I will say is, and your former cohort Mike Mayo, of course, is going off the deep end negative because that's sort of his shtick, especially with the Panthers and Sifu. The problem is this time around it feels different. I will say that this isn't a team that just got in. This isn't a team that.
No. And
look, we didn't know at this point last year, but if you watched any of the Stanley Cup, you could tell this team was dead. That is not the case right now, and I think, and that's something that's going under discussed. Is I think them being so aggressive on the forecheck has actually saved them. I think going at it with teams and letting teams bring it to you led to probably a lot of beatings and a lot of injuries. I think from what we've heard, they're as healthy as any team could ever be in this sport at this time of the year with getting a freaking week off. And that has to have a lot to do with the fact that they're bringing the intensity. They're bringing the action to you, and it's saving them because when they eventually got to it in the middle of the Stanley Cup, because they had to explain why they were just looking so fucking frail, pardon my French, the whole team was injured. Like, Kachuk had a broken goddamn collarbone. People with broken legs. They were broken arms. Like, everyone was injured. From what we're hearing this time around, it is very different. On top of that, they now have the experience of being in a Stanley Cup. They did finally win a Stanley Cup game. Like, to me, they have the home ice. They are playing. The Oilers, in this case, are the upstart team, quote unquote, compared to the Florida Panthers. Like, it feels different this time around than the previous two appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals, at least to me.
Yeah, it certainly feels different. Well, 96 is a separate case, but last year, and even the players have talked to them, it's different. And it's different, as you mentioned, from a health standpoint, although we really won't know the full injury report till after the – I remember it used to be they'd in the day, they'd say, oh, it's left shoulder, which – someone explained to me that's really that there's a diagonal rule in hockey. If they're saying left shoulder, it's really the right ankle. So,
now it's just lower and upper body.
Upper body, yeah.
But the injury, to your point, it certainly seems like it's a far healthier team right now than a year ago. And then they have also they did that run last year, and yeah, it was a fun run, full of energy and everything, but they certainly learned a lot in getting there. And talking to Zito before the Rangers series, he said, what, it feels like a normal schedule of events now, of games 1, 2, 3. They understand the mindset, and it's not just this fun run through. It just seems like a normal course of events for them. So there's that. From having done it last year. And then just the fact that they're a deeper team. And Kachuk, I asked him about what feels different this year, and he just said, we got guys sitting out who contributed for us all year, the Lombergs and Cousins or Poso and Lorenz, depending on how the fourth line goes. And what you've noticed, if you want, the fourth line matters. The depth of this team is off the charts. Yes. And so that gets back to Zito. But I think there is a different feel. And really, the Panthers are the favorite in the hockey world. They're the clear favorite going into this series. And they would have been against Dallas probably too. But This is one where you say, you know what, it looks like a title it looks like it's coming to South Florida for the first time since the Heat won in the second year of the Big Three. Or second.
Pretty amazing, yeah. I mean, thinking about the Stanley Cup circulating around here at the Elbow Room and being able to drink a pina colada out of the cup would be awesome. All right, let's talk about the status and the stature of Lubie's favorite player and one of his favorite targets on the show over the years. And I'll never forget this, and I can't believe it was that long ago because it had to be circa 96, 97, somewhere in that area of time. I've been fortunate to get paid to do appearances with a lot of the top stars that have competed here in South Florida over the years. And I remember pulling up to Beach Place, and I was supposed to be on hand as the Beezer was doing an autograph signing at like Lulu's Bait Shack or something in Fort Lauderdale. And I pull up to this thing. Dave, I've never seen anything like it. They literally were, you would have thought they were giving money away. The people were lined up around a block, down a street, all the way down A1A. You had them going all the way to where the fishing boats go out to get this guy's autograph and get a glimpse of the Beezer. Now, Bobrovsky certainly hasn't reached that stature in town in terms of public recognition. Where does he stand in your eyes as a playoff goaltender? Because we know that the reason that he caught everybody's attention as a free agent, what was that big run he had to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Columbus Blue Jackets when he was essentially, as they say in Goodfellas, Karen, that was all we had. That was all he had. Yep. But where does he stand here in South Florida in terms of recognition and appreciation?
Well, I'm trying to get my writing mind around this because Bobrovsky's 35. A year ago, starting the playoffs, he didn't start the playoffs. Remember, Alex Lyons?
He was suspect at best, yes.
Sketch. Yeah, 2 years ago, he was benched in the playoffs for rookie Spencer Knight.
Yes.
So it's how many, and I was trying to think of this, how many players in sports in the final chapter of their career or close to it, all of a sudden reinvent themselves to greatness? And that's really where Bobrovsky is. In the first three series this year, everybody talked about the goalies, Vasilevsky for Tampa Bay and Swayman for Boston as the future great goalie in hockey. And then this past one, of course, Shesterkin got all the attention.
He was brilliant, too.
Yeah, and for good reason. All those guys, well, Vasilevsky was okay.
Yeah, Vasilevsky was
good. Yeah, he wasn't great anymore.
He's had a great career, and yet Bobrovsky, if he didn't match them, he was right with them or close to them, and it's just different in that the poll, the Rangers talked about it after this. Peter Laviolette, the coach, talked about how, look, this is a defensive system, and they're a hard defense to get through the middle ice, get shots on it, and Paul Maurice, even to his point, when they lost 5-4 in overtime, and everybody's asking about shots and the offense, and he goes, look, the offense wasn't the issue. And you look at what they've given up: 2 goals, 1 goal for 9 of their 11 games. The past 11 games, the past 2 series, the opponent hasn't scored more than 2 goals, and that's their recipe to win. Bobrovsky, of course, is the backbone of that. And the question I have, what the heck happened to him in the past year?
Yeah.
What? And I can't find the answer to that.
Yeah. I think he went and had some kind of eye surgery. Because he came in, he looked like he had developed a tick when he first. They literally, we say this all the time, but people wanted to put him on a rubber raft and send him to Havana, just through the Florida Straits.
He was going to be bought out after last year and probably go back to Russia and finish his career. That was sort of the whispers around the Panthers. And then he has this incredible run and picks right up this year, and he's the same guy. So, what happened? I don't know. I've asked him, and I've asked people around the Panthers. And I don't have a great answer.
Well, could it just be, and that's what Laviolette's saying is, and that's what I give him crap because I watch all these other guys stopping these barrages, and I'm like, I don't see him doing that. But could it be that simple that they're not letting the barrages get to him? Like they're if you notice, all 3 series, they're limiting the other team's shots so much that it allows him to just only have to stop a few here and there, and that seems to be what he excels at. Because in the past, whenever they were getting outshot is when he sort of fell asunder. And when you watch this Ranger series, they outshot them every game, and they were controlling the tempo, and they were controlling the puck and the offensive ice time that allows Bobrovsky to just have to only do so much. And it feels like any goalie, especially Bobrovsky, excels at that point.
Well, it could. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah. He's also had stop breakaways. I mean, you think
he's been great.
In Boston, they still talk about, not this year, the previous year, when Marchand has a breakaway at the end of Game 7 and Bobrovsky stops him. If they score that goal, again, everything changes with the Panthers. Everything, the whole script. So you certainly can't diminish, or not that anybody's diminishing, but he's right there with the central, themes of how they've gotten to where they have. And again, it's one of the remarkable turnarounds for a guy now 35, and at 34, he wasn't starting over a career minor leaguer. And the year before, he was being replaced by a rookie. And so, I was trying, what's close to that in sports? Kurt Warner coming back with his second time, the Cardinals and winning. I mean, that's the only, Al Horford maybe with the Celtics now. He's having a great run, but he was really good before. It's not like he had a couple down years, but he was really good in his 20s and early 30s. So there's not many guys who have done what, the career arc like Bobrovsky has.
All right, final thing, and we always say this, Dave, but it doesn't necessarily apply in your case. That if you could book the media's action, you would be a rich person today. So a prediction here, I'm perusing the odds. Panthers in 4, which seems unlikely, but nonetheless looms as a possibility. 11-1 you get on that. I'm inclined to think Panthers in 6 because that's like an easy number to come up with. You're getting 5-1 on that. What is your prediction for the series? Have you given that any thought yet?
I took the easy 5-1 in my column today. At the end of it, Panthers in 6. They're just, as the Rangers said, they come at you in waves, and over the course of a series, it wears you down. And I just think it's their time. They went through the apprenticeship last year, as fun as that was, and you can see they're very serious about
this is very
about winning at this time. And so I talent and timing. And get ready for a party on Las Olas Boulevard.
Oh, my God, that'd be great.
All right, sounds good. And we'll look forward to reading all of your takes and accounts of what's about to transpire and what's coming up. And we wish you the best. I mean, who knows? Maybe you'll fall in love with Edmonton while you're out there. And it happened to Marty Klinkenberg, right? I mean, didn't he end up like in Edmonton from his days at the Miami News?
Did he end up there? I mean, you think of it, the only people. What do you know about Edmonton?
Nothing.
Wayne Gretzky was there.
Gretzky and Messier. That's it.
Gretzky, they had a great run.
But they were drafted. They didn't go there voluntarily. They were drafted.
No one
Gretzky
was.
lives
Of course.
in Florida now.
Yes.
Gretzky lives here.
100%.
I mean, he's no dummy. So
yeah.
No, I'm looking for it. Should be a fun series.
You get in trouble for this, depending on the context. But, I mean, the only time you see anything about Edmonton is on Discovery Channel, right?
The animals, yeah, exactly.
You're going to be in the fucking wilderness somewhere,
exactly.
Right? It's amazing.
Were they
I didn't see National Geographic in reference to Serena.
Were they the background for Naked and Afraid? I can't remember.
I believe they've shot several seasons there. What are you talking about?
It's in the 40s there next week. It's in the
Really?
40s at night.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. and the temperature's 38 degrees. You have a snake wrapped around your neck and a bunch of spiders about to eat you alive, and you're naked and afraid. I wouldn't do well in that series, Dave. I've watched it a couple of times recently, but it's not for me. Dave, we love you, man. We'll look forward to more of your stuff in the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and it's always a pleasure, and thanks so much for getting up with us and being on the show.
Thanks, gentlemen. We'll talk to you later.
Talk soon, Dave.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave Hyde. Some very sobering opinions there about the series coming up. Dave Hyde, great perspective as always.
Always a good time talking with the one and only Dave Hyde. It scares me a little bit that we're all on the same page with our opinions on the Florida Panthers. I think we all have them in 6. Look, I'm not trying to overlook the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers are a good team. They're in the Stanley Cup Finals for a reason. They, too, like the Panthers, have been building toward this. They have, unlike the Panthers, who have a Barkov, who's one of the best players in hockey, they have arguably the best player in hockey, definitely the best scorer in hockey by any NHL analyst, fans' estimation. Connor McDavid is fantastic. There right now is no one like him. And you have to account for him. You have to account for the Edmonton Oilers. That is 100% true. So I am not overlooking them. I hope the Panthers don't overlook them. The one thing they've been good at is taking every opponent seriously the last couple of years in their runs to 2 straight Stanley Cup Finals. But as we talked about with Dave, things are just different this time around. Look, they were battered and bruised. And yes, we don't know officially. And I'm sure, look, it's hockey. And they played 3 physical teams. So it's not like they don't have cuts and bruises. But last year, literally, Kachuk had a goddamn broken collarbone. Guys had broken arms. They had broken back. Like, they had massive injuries. And it seemed like everyone on the team had massive injuries. From what we know this year, it's very different. That's 1. 2. Last year, they made an appearance in the Stanley Cup Finals. This is now the 2nd straight year. This is not new to them. 2 years ago, they were the President's Trophy winner. This is a team that's been building toward consistent success for multiple years now. On top of that, they have a GM who's not only built a talented roster, he's built a deep roster. The people talk throughout the playoffs of the Panthers' 4th line. Most teams have 1 to 2 good lines, and they have a 3rd or 4th line. The Panthers, the 4th line has been as good for them as any of the other lines. And then, as Dave Hyde talked about, there are guys they have on the bench that aren't even playing, that are key cogs in their team all year long, and they were one of the best teams in hockey this year. That is why we are very confident. I am not cocky. Again, you have the best player in hockey. You have a hockey-crazed town. I wouldn't put anything past the Edmonton Oilers. But it does feel like this time around, this is the best team the Panthers have had in their 3 appearances to the Stanley Cup Finals, the healthiest team they've had compared to last year. And unlike where they were just pushing and fighting to get through, this year they were the aggressor. They were on the attack, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. That forecheck, the discussion that everyone talks about, is real. They bring the action to you, and that has controlled up to this point all the scorers for the 3 teams they faced. Look, again, Doc Seidel and McDavid, I'm sure will get theirs. But if the Panthers are the aggressor and bringing the action on the offensive end and the defensive end, it should keep them in check. That is why I'm very confident this time around again. You never know. It is hockey. They are weird bounces. But the Panthers should be the favorite. They're not the overwhelming favorite, and that's fine. Again, it's hockey. You never know. But they are the hockey world's leaning Panthers. We are leaning Panthers. I hope the ice and what happens on the ice leans Panthers. We will see that get started Saturday down here in Sunrise, Florida. And that will be following Thursday night when the NBA Finals tips off finally. Both series are taking forever to get here. We will talk lots and lots and lots of NBA Finals. We'll talk lots and lots and lots of Stanley Cup Finals. We'll talk so much more. I don't know about how much more Caitlin Clark we can talk, but we'll definitely discuss a lot of it. Check us out each and every morning on South Florida Live, the Facebook channel, South Florida Live, YouTube, the Defo Show with Lubie. Check us out. We do a daily podcast where we take it much more nationally. NoFilter.net, or just Google The Morning Briefing, Caffeine TV. And you can check us out in and outside the world of sports on our other podcast that we do, the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And, of course, our South Florida skewed content right here, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.